The Sony QX1 is probably one of the most exciting and unique camera products I've ever had a chance to review in a long time. Last year, Sony introduced the QX10 and the QX100, which basically gave your smartphone or tablet the capabilities of a point-and-shoot camera, but it's not until they release this, the QX1, where you have the full power of a full-fledged DSLR camera on your smartphone and tablet. Now, even though this thing may turn your smartphone into a low-light beast and in movie-making machines, there's still a couple of things you need to consider before throwing out your old DSLR in the garbage. So therefore, let's go ahead and take a look at the ins and outs of the Sony QX1 to see whether it's right for you. Now let's go ahead and talk about the overall dimensions and design of the QX1. It measures about 74 millimeters in terms of its width and about 52.5 millimeters in terms of its depth. So that makes it just a bit thicker than most of your mirrorless cameras that you're going to come across, such as the Sony Alpha A5100, but definitely thinner than most of your mid to higher end level DSLRs, such as the Canon 60D or 70D. Now let's take a quick tour around the QX1 so you know what kind of features it has physically. Looking at the very front of the device, you can see that it has a full E-mount capabilities, so you can mount Sony's own lenses or even Minolta A-mount lenses, as well as you can adapt different Canon and Nikon lenses on to the E-mount, making it quite a versatile little camera. And obviously then you have the Sony sensor itself, which we're going to talk about in great detail in a little bit. You also have a lens lock and release button. At the bottom of the device you have a standard 1/4 inch tripod mount, as well as a place to attach a wrist strap if you want. The left side contains a release and lock lever for your smartphone backplate attachment, as well as a small screen for basic information such as battery level and connectivity. At the top of the device we have the main power button, followed by the flash release button. Because this thing does have a built-in flash, that's a really nice kind of handy button that you can deploy the flash if needed in different low light conditions. On the right of the device we have a standard shutter release button. If you half press the button, it'll start autofocusing, and if you full press it, it'll take a photo or start recording video. You also have a factory reset button on the bottom, as well as a micro USB port for charging and data transferring. At the very back of the device you can open up the battery door, and then you have the lithium ion battery, which is rechargeable. And lastly, you have two media slots back there. One is for micro SD and the other one is for Sony M2 cards. Now moving on, let's talk about the internal specifications on the QX1. In terms of image processor, it's using Sony's own Bion's X image processor. It obviously has a 20.4 megapixel sensor, which is APS-C. It's a CMOS chip, what you would typically find in most DSLR cameras and mirrorless cameras. It's a very kind of similar spec in terms of megapixel and size. Now in terms of the stills capability on the QX1, it can capture both JPEG and RAW formats, which is really excellent, and that quality definitely matches up to what you would expect in other professional level cameras. The resolution is again 20.4 megapixel, which is plenty enough for pretty much everyone out there. In terms of the photo capturing modes, we have 5 photo capturing modes. 2 are the intelligent auto modes from Sony, which will basically take care of all your exposure settings. One is a shutter priority, the other is program mode, and you also have an aperture priority mode. Unfortunately, there is no full manual exposure settings both in video and in photos, which is kind of upsetting. And really, if you want full manual control using this camera, what you're going to have to do is use a manual lens with an aperture ring and put it in shutter priority mode. That way you have control over the aperture and shutter, and you can also control the white balance to a custom Kelvin level, as well as some other preset levels, and you can fully control the ISO, which is excellent. Now in terms of the drive modes, it can shoot up to 10 frames per second in continuous mode. You also have a range of shutter speeds anywhere between 30 seconds for long nighttime exposures up to 1/4000th of a second. You also have self-timer mode for 2 and 10 seconds. And when we take a look at the focusing capabilities, you do have a couple of options. It has 25 autofocusing points. They're all contrast detection based, so no fast phase detection detection autofocusing, unfortunately. You also do have autofocusing lock, so you can target a specific region of the sensor and it'll always kind of track at that point and autofocus to that specific region. And lastly, you do have the option to manually focus your lens, whether it be electronic or obviously a manual lens, which is definitely a big plus if you're shooting video. And speaking of the video capabilities, unfortunately, the video capabilities of the QX1 don't really come up to the same level of control that you have on the photo. So unfortunately, you do not have any control over aperture, shutter speed, ISO, or white balance. You do have manual control in terms of focusing, but that's pretty much it. There are a couple of ways where you can trick the metering system to be stuck on one kind of setting, but again, if you have changes in terms of lighting in your specific scene, it's going to have to constantly adjust either the ISO or the shutter speed or the aperture to maintain a specific kind of exposure. You do have exposure compensation mode in video mode, but again, that doesn't really help you out too much. Now, the way you primarily control the QX1 is through the Play Memories app from Sony, which is thankfully cross-compatible between iOS and Android, which is definitely a big plus for pretty much everyone out there. And the thing about the actual interface of the Play Memories app, it is pretty good, very intuitive to use. The connectivity between the actual camera and the smartphone or the smart device is very fast and very easy to get started. It basically sets up its own Wi-Fi network and you basically connect to it via that actual Wi-Fi signal, much like you would in most of these other modern DSLRs or mirrorless cameras that have Wi-Fi connectability. Now, there is a lag between what your camera sees and what you see on your smartphone. It's not a deal breaker though, it's still functional in terms of usability, but there is a lag. So if you're pretty critical on shooting video and having absolutely no delay, no lag between what your camera sees and what you see, you might have a little bit of a problem there. Now, in terms of the nitty-gritty image quality differences between what you would expect to see on the QX1 compared to most mainstream cameras, I actually have 3 videos that I've uploaded onto my channel comparing the QX1 to one of the best smartphone cameras out there, the Z3, one of the best mirrorless cameras out there, the Sony Alpha A5100, and a solid mid-level DSLR, the Canon 70D. So definitely check out those videos for specific differences in terms of videos and photos. But generally speaking, I do have to say that the photo capabilities of the QX1 surpasses anything you would get on pretty much every smartphone out there, including the Z3, which has fantastic stills capabilities. And I think the QX1 definitely matches the performance in terms of stills of what you would find in a traditional mirrorless camera such as the A5100, which has slightly higher resolution, but overall the color depth and everything like that is pretty much the same. You're not going to be finding a huge difference between those two cameras, mainly because they are using the identical sensor. Now, comparing this to a mid to higher level DSLR, you are going to notice a difference both in terms of photos and video. Certainly in terms of photos, you are going to have a little bit better low light performance on a full-fledged DSLR, as well as way better autofocusing capabilities, and certainly speaking in terms of color depth and things like that, because the QX1 can shoot RAW, that gap between a professional level DSLR and this thing becomes smaller and smaller, which is definitely pretty impressive to see. Now, the big difference over here is certainly going to be video. Now, even though the cinematic quality of the video is very good, it's so impressive to see. If you were to tell me that a product like this would exist maybe 5 or 10 years ago, I probably think that'd be the work of some sort of science fiction. So really impressive. In terms of bitrate, however, it's only recording up to 16 to 18 megabits per second, which is certainly on the really low side compared to what even the smartphones are doing at 50 megabits per second when you're recording 4K, such as in the Z3. And in terms of overall color detail, I do still think that the QX1 is a better camera, even in terms of video, compared to most other cell phone cameras that shoot even 4K video, but sheer resolution and things like that is really hard to compare. Now, even though you can untether your smartphone or tablet to the QX1 and shoot remotely, which I'm actually doing right now to make this video, there is a limit to how far you can go. It's about 25 feet, give or take a couple of feet, but if you do lose the connection between the smartphone and the camera, it will still record video. So right now, if I walk out of the room, it'll continue recording video until the battery dies or the memory card runs out of space. You, of course, do have the option to shoot without a smartphone because that thing has a shutter release button, but again, you have no idea what the heck you're going to be shooting. So this is really a necessary component to this product. But overall, in terms of the kind of benefits I find with using a product like this, what scenarios would people want to use this camera for? I think it's an excellent alternative for a cinematic version of a GoPro camera. Basically, you can put really fast glass on it and put it in a car and have an excellent kind of B cam that you can get really cinematic shots, or even an action cam with a nice lens on it, although the nicer the lens, the larger the whole camera will be. But it's basically the smallest kind of super 35mm camera that you can get out there, so that's definitely a unique factor there. The other cool thing is it'll be a killer aerial camera. You have all these drones out there. I'm sure this will even fit on a DJI Phantom that's designed for GoPros, which definitely could be a really exciting opportunity for most of you aerial photographers. And the other thing too, this could be a great travel companion camera. Certainly it may be a little bit thicker than a mirrorless camera, but it does have a smaller overall footprint, which is definitely nice. So excellent in terms of mobility and kind of overall versatile kind of scenarios that you could be in. And because it tethers with your smartphone, you're always going to have your smartphone on you, and therefore this is a camera that you might always have on you in any given situation. And last thing, I think this will be an excellent self-portrait camera. So if you're a big fan of selfies or even making YouTube videos like this, because of the fact that you can untether it and basically use a tablet or smartphone to monitor your video, this is really an excellent camera for that, although obviously the quality might not be good as other DSLRs or real video cameras out there. But on that, guys, I think that's really it. Overall, I have to say that the QX1 is really quite an impressive product. I'm really quite excited about using this in the future, and I think the capabilities on this thing are kind of endless. The only thing is Sony definitely needs to keep the development of this product alive, and hopefully with enough interest out there, they will. So you will have things like full manual exposure mode in both videos and photos, and we'll have more video options potentially, because if you guys like this product, Sony will develop this further and come up with a new product that has better features and better capabilities. And that's really what I want to see, because like it or not, this is really the future of camera technology. You don't have to have a big fat DSLR anymore because of products like this, and because of silicone processing becoming more and more powerful, and cameras from smartphones becoming more and more powerful. You're going to get more products in line with this. And who knows, maybe in the next couple of years we'll have a camera like this on our actual smartphone. So definitely love to hear what you guys think about the QX1 and how it compares to other cameras out there. Would you be interested in buying a product like this, something that is dependent and solely attached to your smartphone or tablet? So I'd love to hear your thoughts about the quality of it as well. So definitely leave all those things in the comment down below. Make sure to give us a thumbs up if you like this review, and check back to our channel again if you haven't already about all the latest tech reviews, comparisons, and unboxing. So thanks so much for watching again, and we'll see you later. Take care.